Broadcasting live from somewhere in the Shadow Realm, this is YuGiOh Duel Links Talk. Here's your host, Doug Dimmaduel.
Hey there, and welcome to another episode of YuGiOh Duel Links Talk. Today, we're not going to look at a specific deck or a certain set of cards. What we're going to do is we're actually just going to discuss the current climate of the PvP system within YuGiOh Duel Links. This was a pretty hot topic throughout Twitter and throughout Reddit, so what I ended up finding was more of one of the more popular topics that was on the Duel Links subreddit, and this person really had a lot to say. So what I want to do is I just want to read this person's opinion. Now, these are not necessarily how maybe I feel about the PvP or how some of the viewers may feel about PvP, but I just want to take a listen to this point of view from somebody who's been playing YuGiOh Duel Links for, it seems like, for a while and has invested quite a bit of money into the game just to see what this person thinks. So I'll just start reading at least what this person posted, and let's see what they have to say. First time making a post here, and it's because I'm at a complete loss at how badly Konami screwed up the PvP revamp. First, some background. I've been playing since about May, have spent about $100 or so on this game, enough money where I can have a couple of viable, mostly complete decks, and made King of Games my first time for the World Championship qualifier. I was waiting till the new changes were implemented before making a serious attempt at PvP again, since I was excited by the prospect of better rewards and a longer, more challenging season. I don't usually like to complain too much since I mostly enjoy the game and loved the TCG as a kid. There's a couple of tweaks that I would love to have, like the abysmal design of roaming LDs that are guaranteed to leave you disappointed. But frankly, I've put in some extra time and effort and mostly managed to get the drops I need. Frankly, if the drops were too easy to get, the event would be kind of boring. Although it's determined that you can get 5 of multiple different super rares, but then have one where you get 0. RNG is definitely crappy in this game in terms of any kind of fairness, but that's just the opinion. I'm not here to complain about those issues, though. I finally felt like going out of my way to post here on Reddit because the PvP update has made ranking up a completely miserable experience. The most pressing issue is the win-loss streaks needed to change ranks. I didn't have a problem with them in the old system because you didn't really need to win 3 in a row to rank up. Winning 2, losing 1, then winning 2 still got your promotion, which basically made it so if you won most of your games, you were eventually going to rank up. After all, if you win 2 and then keep alternating wins and losses, you shouldn't really be ranking up, so if you had any winning percentage north of 50, you were basically guaranteed to rank up with some grinding. They even improved the system by making it so you couldn't fall out of your current tier, silver, gold, platinum, etc., so you can now afford to experiment a bit against tougher competition without getting immediately crushed back to gold. By increasing the number of wins needed to rank up in the higher tiers, Konami fully embraced the actual win streaks as the means to level up. Winning 4 or 5 in a row against top-tier competitions means you can no longer get by just by winning the majority of your games. In the past few days, I have had multiple 7-win streaks that were immediately followed by a series of losses. Going 7-3 over 10 games should not leave you at the same rank as you originally had, but that's exactly how the new system works. You can literally win 70% of your games eternally and never get past platinum. This would be bad enough in a game based mostly on skill, where the better player can expect to win the majority of their matches consistently, but Duel Links is not remotely close to that type of game. You can spend $1,000, get a perfect Red Eyes Turbo with 3 of every possible card you could ever want to use in the best decks, and still lose because you draw 3 Red Eyes Spirit and a card of the Red Stone in your starting hand while your opponent puts down a Blue Eyes with CV. No deck is overpowered that it has a winning matchup against every other meta deck, which means that wins are often going to come down to matchups and luck of the draw. This is without even accounting for cancerous stuff like Tia Burn decks and the broken disconnect system. Losing a rank without even getting to play a card is the kind of nightmare that makes me question why I play this game, much less pay money for it. Perhaps the most mind-blowing part of the win streak is that Konami already has a superior system for determining who the best players are. The DP system used in the World Cup qualifier is clearly a better way to determine skill, since winning most of your matches is guaranteed to advance your score in a way the current win streak system completely fails at doing. Frankly, even going back to the old 3 wins per rank up, all through Legend 3, getting that last rank should be a little hardened, but I'm okay with that, would go a long way to solving the issue. Right now, it just feels like you're forced to use perfect decks to even compete. And then you have to grind with those perfect decks against dozens of other perfect decks just to sniff Legend. Add in the fact that even a short burst of bad luck wipes out all your best efforts, and it's no wonder a huge chunk of people have given up and started playing burn decks for quick wins and gems. Frankly, I'm worried about the future of the game. From what I hear, even those mighty few who have managed to make King of Games have found a barren rank without enough people for the matchmaking to actually work. So the too long didn't read version that this person posted was, win streak rank based system doesn't work in luck based card game. PvP past Platinum has become a miserable experience and needs to be changed to something more sensible. Not gonna quit yet, but am officially trying to grind PvP plus make life miserable for burn/tune decks by just waiting out the full clock and making the game as awful for them as they're making it for me. Okay, so that's pretty much the rambling in a nutshell as to this really in-depth post that was floating around on Reddit. Now, there are a lot of things that it seems like a lot of the people that I talk with on Twitter absolutely agree with. It seems like these win streaks are just absolutely outrageous to do. Now, and for me, it kind of makes sense, because this is what I've been experiencing over the last few weeks since they've implemented the new PvP system. Now that we're at this certain point of Duel Links being out there and with all these great card sets and all these great cards that were introduced, the meta seems to be pretty well spread out between everybody who's playing. There are so many different quality decks that can be built and that can be afforded. So earlier in the whole process, before we came out with all these extra box sets, there were only just a handful of meta decks that were just really solid, and people who didn't have them obviously couldn't compete. So it was really easy to just kind of go through and get a win streak if you had one of those meta decks. Now there are just so many decks that are pretty much on the same level. It really just comes down to who has the better luck and who has the better hand in order to see who wins. So just given the nature of the game and how each deck is 20 cards and you start off with 4, sometimes 5 cards if you're using dual standby, you can't guarantee that the better deck is always going to win. So when you're relying on a win streak, which seems to be more skill-based, it's really tough to actually make those win streaks happen. Now, that could be part of the allure of the game. I know that's part of the challenge, and at least for me, who's been playing it, I specifically really like the idea that, this is just so challenging that the people who make it all the way to King of Games really deserve it. Unless, of course, they're using some kind of cheap garbage decks, but, we're not going to get into that. but no. Typically, though, it's just something that, you really put in a lot of effort and a lot of time to make it up to the King of Games level, because you know how difficult it is to get so many wins in a row. And that's why they make it so lucrative to finally get to that top of the PvP. If it was easy enough for everybody to get there, then there would really be no appeal in reaching the King of Games status, because, hey, just about anybody can do it. So the whole point is, at least that I'm trying to make here, just based off of just kind of piggybacking off of what this person posted in the subreddit, is, there's got to be a better system that Konami can implement, but also in a way too that you do keep it limited to how many people can end up making up the King of Games. And they really did a good job with that in the World Championship qualifiers, and that was a point that was brought up in this Reddit post. If this qualifier type system with the DP, the dual points, is then, maybe there's a cutoff. The first so many thousands or tens of thousands of people who make it in DP points do end up being called King of Games at the end of that duel season. You could do something along those lines. I don't want to get into all the details and what would be the cutoff and what you'd have to do, but at least that way, the most consistent decks, the ones that are constantly winning, at a high percentage rate, are the ones who get rewarded. It's not so much the ones that could get lucky and go on that 10-game win streak. Because I'll tell you right now, I recently just got out of the gold rank, and I was lucky. here's what happened. I mean, I was lucky enough to not run into any Taya burn decks or any Toon decks or anything along those lines that would have just demolished me within a turn or two. And it really just saved my butt, because then I was able to just play by skill, and I did have the more consistent deck, but I was actually able to get a winning streak going because I was just fortunate enough to play against decks that weren't one of those first turn kill or 2-turn kill type of decks that if you don't have the right hand, you can't really do anything about it. But yeah, that's why, I mean, I was fortunate enough to get that win streak going. Now, is that the way that Konami wants King of Games to be, where it's just the luck, and if you get enough decks that are not the current meta in a row, then maybe you could end up pulling a winning streak and end up making it up to a certain level? Maybe. I mean, I don't necessarily know what the mindset is of that. But it definitely seems like from a lot of these discussions, and it seems like a lot of people were agreeing with this specific Reddit post on a lot of points, not all of the points, but on quite a few of the points. It seems like there's going to need to be some kind of reevaluation of how PvP is going to be handled moving forward, given the current environment, because, I mean, it's hard enough to win so many duels in a row within Gold, where you get so many different varieties of decks. It seems like once you get into Platinum, you start getting into some real tough deck category there. Let alone trying to get 4 games in a row, 5 games in a row of wins against those types of quality decks. So, it's one thing if you win 2, you lose 1, you win 2 or 3 more, you lose 1. I mean, if that's the way the things go and you're able to still advance by going that way without needing to rely on getting 4 wins in a row, I mean, hey, I think that people would feel much better about playing, because it seems like with the amount of I guess the amount of luck that it takes to get that win streak going, it seems like people are much more likely to be unlucky and end up with 3 just awful matchups and fall a rank just like that, because they got paired up with 3 terrible burn decks in a row that they just had no counter for and couldn't even make it out of the first turn. And it's really just the luck of the draw, and I don't mean to use that pun with Yu-Gi-Oh, but yeah, that is kind of how it feels right now, and it seems like the feelings are mutual with a lot of other players. Now, there are some who fully embrace this current format, and they just love everything about it, and that's awesome. But you'll see, as new sets come out, and as new decks also become more formidable, and you just have such a wider range of quality decks out there, you're going to find it much more difficult to get any type of solid win streaks going. Now, I know quite a few people who I'm following on Twitter right now who are making those win streaks happen, and there are some mad props to those people. They got either a lot of patience, some really good decks, and I guess a little bit of luck on their side too, but we'll just chalk that one up to skill, because I know we got some pretty good deck builders out there who are listening to the podcast. So yeah, congrats to you guys. I know it's really difficult to even make it out of bronze and silver and gold right now, and let alone get through platinum or even the legend status. And if you're lucky enough to make it to King of Games, I mean, you are just incredible. So yeah, right now this is just it's just a really interesting PvP system right now. So we'll see where things go in the coming months. We'll see if Konami ends up releasing another survey to request some feedback, because I'm pretty sure they'll be getting a lot of feedback on this topic. But anyway, yeah, I just thought it was pretty interesting to share this type of subreddit post that really hit on a lot of points. So I'd really like to hear your end of the conversation. Do you think that PvP is worth it right now? Do you think there's some better suggestions for at least for the PvP setup? What do you think? So I'd like to hear what you have to say. Feel free to reach out to me on Twitter at YuGiOh Deck Talk. It's all one word, at YuGiOh Deck Talk, and I'd love to get your opinion. And hopefully later on we could revisit this topic and maybe talk about some additional changes or some specific recommendations for an all-around better PvP system. Or we could just talk about how, no, let's go back to the old way. Either way, it's up to you guys. So curious to see what you guys have to think. So anyway, really appreciate you guys for tuning in. Thanks a lot for listening, and we'll see you next time. Take care.